to Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best part of Dorothy's dream.
Today on Around Kansas, join us for a story about the Topeka Cemetery and how they're honoring World War I veterans. Then join us for a story about Arthur Capper and his role in politics. Next, learn about pheasants and why they're popular during the fall season. And we'll end with a look at Civil War reenactor Greg Higginbotham. Stay with us. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life. Here it is Wednesday. I'm Frank.
I'm Deb.
And this is Around Kansas. Thanks for joining us today.
And happy fall to you. We're right in the middle of fall now.
And November.
November is rushing by.
Yeah, I don't know why, but this year has been one of the fastest years yet. For me, it seems like.
Of course, now, thank God, daylight savings time has ended.
Yeah.
I live to get that hour back every fall. And of course, now they're shortening it because it took until November to change. And they change it in March? They change it. So we get to keep this hour for 4 or 5 months? They're really ticking me off, Frank, I'm telling you.
Well, now you go to work in the dark and go home in the dark, so, you know.
That's crazy. It just makes me I hate daylight savings time. I want to live the way we were meant to live, Frank, and just have
but
normal lives.
We didn't have time and time zones until the railroads came along, so
True.
It was like, there's the sun, now it's over there, and that's back up there.
I was listening to this interesting program the other day on High Plains Public Radio. I'm a big supporter. And it was a program about how this guy had spent some time with the Inuit in Alaska. And the old elder told the scientists, the sun used to come up over there, and now it comes up over here. And of course, we're talking not like every day, but the long, like after the, 10 and a half months of night or whatever that they have. Well, it turns out they started looking into this. It's actually a mirage. And so it did appear to him that the sun was coming up in a different place. But it is a mirage. The sun had not come up at all. And in fact, when the scientist was there filming, they're waiting for the sun to emerge after, it's like the groundhog coming out after so long. And they're waiting for the sun to come up. And so he records this. And then he sends it to his friend who actually has the, the real times about the sun emerges here at certain. No, they hadn't seen the sun. The sun had not, in fact, come up. They had seen a mirage, so it looked like the sun come up, but it hadn't. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but but it was just...
I'm just listening.
But it was fascinating. And Jake has pointed out, because, we have an expanse of land, there are days that he said, you can see the grain elevator at so-and-so, 40 miles away. I'm like, yeah. He said, you're not seeing it. That's a mirage. It's a reflection. I'm like, really? Wow, that is so cool.
The atmosphere does strange things.
So, Frank, am I really seeing you there today? Is this just a reflection of you?
No, today I'm a mirage.
Yeah, so today Frank is he's probably in a closet somewhere, and this is just actually, we've done this mirrors trick to reflect Frank out here.
Oh, my. Are we doing a show? Oh, yeah, we are. We're doing a show today. I think we have some stories. Isn't it interesting?
And I'll be real, too. No mirages, no make-believe stuff. All right, maybe a little make-believe stuff. I don't know. Yeah. Little tricks of the camera, or tricks of the eye. I wish we could do some eye tricks.
We're not really here.
That's right. You're just imagining us. God, wake up. We'll be right back.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
I'm a patient of Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life. We're back again. We're really here. We're not a mirage. So.
How much to your chagrin. So I want to invite everybody out this weekend to the Veterans Day Parade in Oakley. So because it is on Saturday, because Veterans Day falls on Saturday this year, they are actually going to be able to have the parade at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, just like the armistice was signed that ended World War I in Europe. So I want to invite you all to come out and see the Veterans Day Parade. And go to the Veterans Day Parade, whatever your hometown might happen to be. But if you don't have a hometown, you can come be part of ours. And want to invite you over to Topeka Cemetery for the next few days as well, where the biographies of the folks who are buried there who passed away during World War I, some from injury, some from illness, because of course the flu epidemic hit at the same time. We've done a couple of segments on that, and as we approach the anniversary of the flu epidemic, I think we'll do some more. So this is about remembering those World War I veterans.
And the Topeka Cemetery, if you're not familiar with it, it's at 10th in California, and it's a beautiful place to visit.
It is. A great place to get out and walk around and enjoy the nice fall weather. During the 100th anniversary of the Great War, volunteer Jeannie Mithen has been honoring Topekans who died during their service by posting their photos and a short biography at their grave sites in historic Topeka Cemetery. Most of these young men and one woman were not combat casualties, but as in most wars, sickness was the greatest enemy. It is proper that we take the time to recall them and their sacrifice. Most were first buried in France and later returned to America. Some, like Henry Walsh, were never returned, and a memorial bears his name. Also, Philip Billard was a test pilot, and when he died in a plane crash, his family buried his ashes in his grandmother's garden in France. John Oscar Ackerstrom died in 1918 from wounds sustained in one of the final Battle of the Meuse-Argonne Offensive, just a dozen hours before the armistice. Floyd Webster Bailey, born in Agra, Kansas, died in training in September of 1918 of complications from the Spanish influenza and resulting pneumonia at Camp Grant, Rockford, Illinois. Seaman Kenneth Lind Barber, Foster Raymond Bradfield, William Henry Cumickle, Ralph Raymond Doige, Robert Thomas Melton, and Virgil Eaton died during training of complications from the Spanish influenza. Frederick Joseph also died from Spanish influenza and rests in the Jewish section without a headstone. Medical corpsman Harold Rosen Olson died from cerebral spinal meningitis in France, and Frank Asbury Pavey died of TB and measles at Camp Funston. Lyman Rice died from dysentery and pneumonia. Charles Erickson died from pneumonia and shrapnel poison sustained during the Meuse-Argonne Offensive. Leroy Evans was killed in action on August 31st, 1918. Ari Ernest Fager died from wounds as a result of machine gun fire in November 1918 at a base hospital near the town of Barracourt, France. William Klinge died of pneumonia while training in Texas, January 1919. Ernest Fred Moneypenny was accidentally shot in France. Faye Sarah Friedberg died from disease on December 30, 1918, of complications from the Spanish influenza and resulting pneumonia in Washington, D.C., while she was working with the Casualty Division of the Adjutant General's Office in the War Department. On the Shawnee County Victory Highway Memorial, Faye is recorded as the only Shawnee County woman member of the Department of War to have died in the Great War in the service of the United States. She is buried in the Jewish section of the historic Topeka Cemetery. Jesse Gilliland died in October 1918 after being gassed and wounded during the opening stages of the Meuse-Argonne Offensive. Fred Lloyd Jones died in August 1919 from pneumonia contracted on board ship during his return from his participation in the AEF offensives of the Western Front in France. Theodore Leslie McNeely was killed in action on September 16, 1918, in a direct hit from a shell on the front line of the most advanced and exposed position being held by the 353rd Infantry during the St. Mihiel offensive. Kenneth Sutherland was killed in action 17 July 1918 in the Alsace, France. William Swan died from wounds sustained in the Meuse-Argonne offensive in October 1918. Albert Thompson Jr. died during training in San Antonio in July 1919 of cancer. He had already served one tour of duty in Europe. As we mark Veterans Day, November 11, let us recall their sacrifices and those of their families and the millions who died around the world in those dark years a century ago.
Buffalo Bill Cody earned his legendary title in Oakley. Bring the family and come celebrate Oakley's pioneering history and unique geography at two sites, the Buffalo Bill Cultural Center and the Fick Fossil Museum. Cody's statue marks his achievements and welcomes visitors to the Cultural Center. The Fick Fossil Museum houses world-class fossils and artifacts. You'll find Oakley at the hub of U.S. Highways 83 and 40 and I-70. Stop for the legend. Stay for the day. Discover Oakley.
Fort Wallace was the fightingest fort in the West. Fossils, Indians, soldiers, scouts, wagons, trails, pioneers, stories. Discover the story of Fort Wallace and the people who served here, the people who fought here, the people who settled here. Wallace County, where the past is present.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. Back again.
Well, Frank is going to talk about one of my favorite people in history, and that's Arthur Capper.
Of course, the Capper Foundation here in Topeka, you're probably familiar with, and he got that started.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's so many manifestations of his business still around.
Yeah.
You know, with Ogden Publications, and is Wren one of Arthur Capper's?
No, but he and Alf Landon were somewhat contemporaries.
I thought they I know that they were they spent some of the same airspace together, didn't they?
Well, they were of the same political ilk.
They sure were.
Yeah, but that's when really, though, Kansas, believe it or not, Kansas was a huge leader in national politics for many, many years. Arthur Capper, and of course Stauffer and Landon, and
before that, Charles Curtis. You know, he was the first
Republican
Senate Majority Leader. You know, and famous for crossing the aisle and compromise and all that. Remember reading about that in the history books, Frank? Yeah, when people would actually compromise and get stuff done. Yes, children, we'll talk about that one day. In the meantime, let's take a look at
Arthur Capper.
Amazing Kansan.
Arthur Capper was proud of the fact that he was the first governor born in Kansas, born in Garnett on the heels of the Civil War and just weeks after the Lincoln assassination. Capper was to find himself in the midst of history. According to the Kansas State Historical Society, at the age of 14, he became a printer's devil with the Garnett Journal. After graduation from high school, Capper went to work as a typesetter for the Topeka Daily Capital. Working his way up at the newspaper, he became an editor and served as correspondent for the state legislature and U.S. Congress. In 1892, Capper married Florence Crawford, daughter of Governor Samuel Crawford. The couple had no children. Capper left Kansas and took a position with the New York Tribune. He worked later as a congressional correspondent in Washington, D.C., before returning to his native state. Capper purchased two Topeka newspapers, the Mail and the Breeze. He later acquired controlling interest in the Daily Capital. By 1911, the Saturday Evening Post called Capper's Capital one of the best and brightest dailies in the West. Capper became the 20th governor of Kansas, serving 2 terms, followed by 5 terms as U.S. Senator 1919 to 1949. In 1927, Capper purchased WIBW, among the first radio stations in the state. An advocate of children's welfare, Capper established a number of events and programs to assist the state's youth. The Capper Birthday Party was a popular summer event from 1908 until 1951, when the flood forced its cancellation. He established agricultural clubs that loaned money to students so they could start modest businesses. These clubs eventually merged into the 4-H movement. To benefit children with disabilities, Capper formed a foundation in Topeka in 1920. He also organized the Goodfellows Club of Topeka. Capper became one of the nation's leading publishers of the decade and was featured on the cover of Time magazine. He served as the chair of the Senate's Agriculture and Forestry Committees during the 80th Congress and chose not to seek re-election in 1948. Arthur Capper died December 19, 1951, in Topeka.
Welcome to the Jerry Thomas Gallery and Collection, where we showcase my renowned frontier military and Native American artifacts. Behind me you see a touch of fall. We put together not only the beauty of Micah Highwalking, who is the first graduate of West Point of the Northern Cheyenne people and a dear friend, but also a Hudson's Bay blanket that I have here in the gallery. The unique opportunity that I was able to have was we unveiled this painting and surprised Micah at Custer Battlefield, a true honor.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Find out more at ksgrainsorghum.org. And here we are again. It's November already. So, and that's when people can go out and start hunting things like pheasants.
That's right, hunt, and be thinking about your Thanksgiving dinner. Wouldn't some nice roast pheasant be wonderful for Thanksgiving? And if you're having it, invite me over because I'd love to have some. I love pheasant.
Can you deep fry a pheasant?
I'm sure you can deep fry most anything these days, Bubba can deep fry a pheasant, that's right. Yeah, and the feathers, everybody always collects them and decorates with them. I've got a whole tree. My friend Dina Anderson, her late husband Steve, gave me tons of pheasant feathers from a lot of his hunting expeditions, and that's what I decorate the Christmas tree with, all those pheasant feathers.
We don't have any in
No,
here.
we've got peacock feathers
yeah, we got
here.
Peacock
yeah,
feathers.
so obviously this
It's
was
not peacock season.
an unlucky hunter who did that one. So, but yeah, pheasant season, and when you're out hunting, I want to invite you to stop by the Western Kansas Travel Plaza there at Mittens while you're out hunting, and stop in and see some of the trophies that might inspire you when you're hunting. But yeah, it's a great place to stop in and warm your hands along the way. So good luck, folks.
Considering we are the 3rd or 4th ranked pheasant hunting state in the nation, it may seem strange that the colorful bird is not native to Kansas. Perhaps the most popular game bird, according to Wildlife and Parks, the ring-necked pheasant was introduced in 1906. 3,000 birds were let go in 84 counties, and what a spectacle that must have been. One little boy, upon seeing his first pheasant in the wild, ran home to tell his mother he had seen a baby dragon. Pheasants quickly adapted, and the first hunting season was opened in 1917. Pheasant season was inconsistent until 1982. The species are so entrenched that annual harvests range from more than 400,000 to more than 800,000. Hunting is big business in Kansas, and pheasant season draws anywhere from 110,000 to 150,000 hunters annually. Only the males are harvested, ensuring the population will remain strong. Wildlife and Parks monitors pheasant populations through 4 different surveys at various times of the year. Even rural mail carriers are asked to share their observations of the birds, and hunters themselves provide invaluable feedback. Each of these surveys provides range-wide and regional indices to annual change and long-term trends. But the best indicator for a good pheasant season is a good wheat crop.
Lecompton. The name was splashed across newspapers throughout America and Europe. It was debated in the halls of Congress. Lecompton interprets its unique territorial history with 2 museums and other sites. Events throughout the year celebrate history and community. Visit the Territorial Capitol Museum, where more than 70 trees are displayed with thousands of antique and vintage ornaments, and be sure to stop in the gift shops in both Lecompton museums. Spend the day in historic Lecompton, shopping, eating, savoring the rich history.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, so what's going on out in western Kansas?
Oh, honey, this is the place to be this weekend. I'm telling you, we got the Veterans Day Parade. We've got the pheasant season opening, which is, a big day out there. And then on Sunday, one of my best buds, and Frank, as you well know, I have some interesting friends. Greg Higginbotham, all the way from Missouri, is coming out to western Kansas, and he is going to be at the Fort Wallace Museum Sunday afternoon at 6 o'clock. I think we're having the dinner, and he's going to speak. And he's bringing guns of the Indian War era, so the 1860s, what the infantry would have used. But I think it's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We're selling chances. You can actually fire the Gatling gun. There will be blanks in it, and then the Henry rifle and some sharps, and so a lot of these antique firearms, you're going to have the opportunity to fire those with some experts that if you don't know how, they can show you how. So well supervised. We've got some good supervisors out there. And Hig, as we finally call him, is just one of my favorite people in the world. He portrays Frank James. He's a hoot. He's a hoot, and he's my buddy. And I just want to introduce you to him.
My friend Greg Higginbotham grew up in Independence, Missouri, where he and his mother often ran into Harry and Bess Truman in the grocery store. Hig, to his pards, recalled that Bess often bought the National Enquirer tabloid and that Harry would wait in the car for her as she shopped and gossiped with the neighbors. Hig has become the go-to person for accurate portrayals of 19th century firearms and clothing, amassing an impressive personal collection of both. Hig has appeared in or consulted on dozens of feature films or documentaries. He was an expert commentator in the recent series Gunslingers on the American Heroes Channel and appeared in feature films Gettysburg and Ride with the Devil. He has a long association with the Emmy Award-winning film company Wide Awake Films in Kansas City. Hig became interested in the Civil War when he was a child in 1961, just as America was marking the centennial of the war. A Life magazine focusing on the war's history arrived on the family's doorstep, and he was hooked. Until then, he had not realized the pivotal role of the Kansas-Missouri border in the Civil War. He became a fireman, then a librarian, but always an historian. He has immersed himself in the history of the region and even portrays one of the era's most famous characters, Frank James. With fellow historian Dave Bears, Hig brings to life one of the most remarkable stories of friendship in the annals of the West, that of Frank James and Cole Younger. Even I forget it's not really the infamous outlaws, as Hig and Dave bring them to life so accurately. He portrayed the elder James brother during the reenactment of the surrender to Missouri Governor Tom Crittenden following the 1882 death of Jesse James. Thousands flocked to watch the recreation of that historic moment.
That's it for this week. I'm Frank,
I'm Deb.
and we'll see you somewhere around
Kansas.
Kansas.
Under the rainbow, this is where it was.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy's dream. We're the best part of Dorothy's dream.